Hello, I'm Spiger, and this is my Chalice Dungeon Beginner's Guide for Bloodborne. I'll be discussing the basics of getting into the Chalice Dungeons. So, the first step required in getting into the Chalice Dungeons is to acquire the Pthumeru Chalice from the third boss in the main campaign, the Blood-Starved Beast. Once you defeat that, you should acquire your Pthumeru Chalice. So here in my inventory on the far right, I of course have unlocked a lot more, but the first one you get is the Pthumeru Chalice. In the description section in the middle, you'll see the depth, which is the difficulty of the dungeon, the area, which is there are dungeons of different sort of what we call tile sets, so they have different rooms, different bosses, different enemies, that sort of thing. Below that, we have the blood echoes and the materials required to perform the ritual to make the dungeon. In this case, it requires 2 ritual blood level 1s. There will be, more types of ritual blood, 2, 3, 4, etc. They look different. It's similar to the upgrade components. They're all bloodstone something. Same sort of deal there. Now, once I have the required components, if you don't have ritual blood, by the way, you can buy some from these messengers. All they have is very entry-level components. Ritual Blood 1 and 2 Mold 1, because these do not drop from the dungeons. Each dungeon will drop higher level components, so none of them drop the base level. Some enemies can, but it's fairly rare, so they make them available here. So you can beat the third boss, get your Pthumeru Chalice, snag a couple of Ritual Blood level 1s, and come over to one of these 6 altars. This first one is special. I'll come back to that. The altars that are lit up have Chalice Dungeons available currently that I've already created. But you'll go over to any of them because it'll all be blank, and select Perform Chalice Ritual. You'll choose the chalice that you want to use. The only one you should have available is Pthumeru Chalice, and you can ensure that you have the proper components and conduct the ritual. I do not have the proper components. However, once you do the ritual, you should see something like this. It will display the checkpoints, just as the other altars in the main campaign display different checkpoints or lanterns, so you can go into the entry level. Alright, so here I am inside of a Chalice dungeon. This is the very beginning. I'm going to be showing you the format of what you should expect on each layer of a Chalice dungeon. So initially you'll be in a sort of nondescript room with a lantern as your starting point. You can proceed forward, there'll be a door here, into a hallway, which much of the time will just contain this sort of goldish colored door, which of course I've already opened, and some golden lanterns. This indicates the primary path forward into the main dungeon of the layer, and there will always be a lantern at the beginning of that. There can also be, and in this case there is, a side dungeon. I refer to this as a pre-dungeon because it is before the main body of the layer. And the primary reason for delving into these entirely separated instances is acquiring more Chalice Dungeon ritual components, such as Ritual Blood, Tomb Mold, whatever it is that you want to throw into your Chalice rituals when you're making a dungeon. Now back into the main dungeon of the layer. In the first room, you should expect to have another gateway with lanterns. Initially, these should be purple, not turquoise, and there will be a gate, which I have opened. Once you find a lever somewhere within this main body of the layer, these lanterns will turn turquoise and the gate will unlock, allowing you to proceed forward. Again, entering this hallway, the golden lanterns indicate the primary path forward to the boss. There is a post-dungeon here. Pretty much the same thing as the pre-dungeon, only thing is that it's after the main body of the dungeon. So, I proceed forward into the boss room. Once I have defeated the boss, a lantern should appear. This lantern, I think, is sort of pointless. I actually usually don't activate them because immediately after the boss room, there will always be an elevator leading down to the next layer. Now, the Chalice Dungeons have a specific progression to them. You'll start off with the Pthumeru Chalice, and once you complete that dungeon, you should have the central Pthumeru Chalice. You can see that the depth, which is the number next to the 3 little horizontal lines, is 2, indicating that it's more difficult. Again, the lower Pthumeru Chalice is acquired from beating the central Pthumeru Chalice, etc., so the dungeons get more and more difficult. Any chalice that has root in the name is a randomized dungeon. The ones that do not have root are specific dungeons that are the same each time because they are part of this primary progression. Now, what you'll likely want to do initially is, of course, you'll do Pthumeru because that should be the only one you have. Then you'll want to do the central Pthumeru, followed by the Hintertomb, and then the lower Hintertomb. The reason that you want to do this is because beating the last boss in the lower Hintertomb Chalice unlocks a key with an interesting name. It is the Short Ritual Root Chalice, which you would expect to be a chalice, but it's not. It's actually a key. This enables you to use this first special altar in order to engage in multiplayer in the Chalice Dungeons. So you can look for someone to help out in a dungeon, you can look for someone to absolutely destroy by invading them, or you can just do a quick search for whatever dungeon, just, instant matchmaking mode. Well, that concludes the Beginner's Guide to Chalice Dungeons. If you have any more questions about the dungeons or need advice on any other aspects of Bloodborne, I think I'm pretty much on the bleeding edge, so leave your questions in the comments or back on the Reddit thread, or you can even follow me on Twitch. I've been streaming quite a lot. The link for that will be in the description. Thanks for watching.